Latrice Armstead, a mother of three boys and 38 years old at the time, was last seen in a 4200 block of Springleaf Lane in Memphis, Tennessee at around 11 a.m. on July 12, 2012. On the day of her disappearance, Latrice was last seen by witnesses twice with her estranged husband, Tony Bledsoe. The couple was separated and in the process of a divorce. The relationship had been pierced with domestic violence before she vanished. A few years back, I had the opportunity to speak with Latrice Armstead's sister. She traveled from St. Louis, Missouri to Memphis, Tennessee to spread awareness about her sister going missing around the Memphis area. She also spoke about the turbulent relationship that her sister Latrice had with her soon-to-be ex-husband Tony Bledsoe.
Did Latrice ever speak about being in fear of danger, for her life or anything like that?
Not until after.
After the separation?
After the separation.
Mm-hmm.
And, because she had moved in with me, we had started to grow closer. So she was able to share some things with me that she probably wasn't able to share with anyone else that was around her.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, she did. And I think the incident that caused her to move, they had went on a family vacation, she and her husband, and he broke her jaw. And so that was the time that she came. She came directly from their vacation location to my house, and that was it.
But that wasn't the first time that he had done something like that to her, but it was just the breaking point.
Yeah, that was the breaking point. And as the investigation to her missing persons case carried on, we found out, the family found out more about what really was happening in that situation.
How long was she married?
She was married for almost 2 years, but she had been with him for about 13 years.
Do you think that the abuse started after the marriage or way before, way before?
From what I can gather, it had started way before, and it was nothing that was traceable. So a lot of verbal abuse, some physical abuse, but nothing that was
emotional abuse.
Right.
During this interview, Latrice Armstead's sister Brenda spoke about Latrice's final breaking point in this relationship. She spoke about how Latrice, her husband, and her three little boys went on a family vacation to New Orleans. During this vacation, Tony Bledsoe became so angered with Latrice about something to the point that he started to beat her. And in beating her this time, he broke her jaw while down in New Orleans. Tony Bledsoe was arrested in New Orleans, and Latrice saw the perfect opportunity to get away. She and her boys traveled back from New Orleans while Tony was in jail. She packed up a few things for the boys and traveled to St. Louis where her sister lived. When Latrice moved from Memphis to St. Louis to live with her sister in trying to get away from Tony Bledsoe, it was during this time that Latrice started to feel comfortable enough to tell her family the abuse that she had endured from the hands of Tony Bledsoe for so many years. Brenda spoke about how Latrice had started to feel liberated again when she left Tony Bledsoe and left Memphis and moved to St. Louis to live with her. She said that Latrice had been so instrumental in her going to nursing school, and Latrice had decided to continue her career in nursing and was going to actually enroll back in nursing school. Latrice had started a new life and was happy and thriving with her three boys. This was the first time in many years that she had felt free without fearing abuse from her husband, Tony. Latrice had filed for divorce and was actually looking forward to the finalization of her divorce. So on July 27th, 2012, almost a week before the finalization of her divorce, Latrice traveled from St. Louis to Memphis to pack the rest of her and her three sons' clothing. Her oldest son had wanted to say his goodbyes to his best friend, So Latrice allowed him to sleep over at his home.
She had come back to Memphis to bring her son to a sleepover, like his last sleepover. So, but her son didn't go missing.
No.
Mm-hmm.
So the son stayed at a friend's house, and the last I heard that she had went to pick him up, and he wanted to go to church with his friends. So she said, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess she was just gonna hang around until they got back from church. But after then, we haven't heard anything. I didn't hear anything from her, and it was quite unusual because she always calls to check on her kids. Like, even though I was her sister and she trusts me, she still called to check on them. And so when I didn't hear from her, I immediately knew that something.
How long did it take you to know that something wasn't right?
Like 2 hours. Because she called, like, literally. And when I didn't get the initial call from her that morning, I called our cousin, and she's like, yeah, well, she was here, but she left to pick up TJ. And after that, I called the neighbors where he was, where the little boy was. And they said that they had saw her, but she had left, she had left because the little boy was staying to go to church with his friends. But I started calling her cell phone, and there was no answer, there was no response.
Brenda stated that Latrice's son, TJ, who was 12 years old back in 2012, said that he saw his mother getting into the car with his father, and that was the last time that he ever saw her. Brenda, Latrice's sister, immediately filed a missing persons police report in Memphis, Tennessee. The next call that Brenda got was a call from the police department notifying them that Latrice's car had been found on fire in Coahoma, Mississippi. That's Latrice's hometown, about 50 miles outside of Memphis.
A relationship, she says, so violent, it left her with a broken jaw and her mouth wired shut.
Ms. Armstead had been assaulted prior to her disappearance, and there was an order of protection placed against her husband or boyfriend prior to her disappearance.
Armstead said his sister returned to Memphis a few weeks after her move to St. Louis. It was during that weekend trip that she vanished. A police affidavit confirms Latrice and her husband were seen together July 29th. That's the same day she disappeared, and the black Acura she was driving was found burning in a rural area of Coahoma County, Mississippi. Latrice has never been found.
Based on what I've seen in the case, I don't think she's alive.
Although detectives don't believe that Latrice is still alive and that her ex-husband is probably the reason that she's gone missing, Latrice's family is still keeping hope alive.
Sometimes I walk around outside hoping I could peep around the corner and see her coming down the street.
Latrice's brother is still holding on to faith she will be found alive, but also admits nothing could keep her from contacting her family, and they haven't heard from her.
When Latrice went missing, her sister Brenda immediately filed for custody of her 3 children and raised them in St. Louis, actively trying to provide a safe and secure environment for them as her sister Latrice would have wanted. I asked Brenda if Tony Bledsoe had been active in trying to help to figure out what had happened to Latrice, or if he had been proactive in his sons' lives since she had been raising them.
So from my understanding, he evaded the police for quite some time. And then when they finally brought him in for questioning, he was very uncooperative. And they really couldn't get a statement from him as to her whereabouts or even their relationship. So that was kind of it.
So has he ever had a conversation with you since she went missing?
No, he has not. He has not contacted me at all. And I feel like in this particular situation, for someone to be in a relationship with someone else for this long, and all of a sudden you dismiss their family, you dismiss your family, your children as easily, it says that there is a guilty conscience somewhere.
As of today, in 2023, Latrice Armstead is still missing, and there have been no arrests in her disappearance. A few years after Latrice's disappearance, her husband Tony Bledsoe was arrested for domestic violence of yet another companion. And although he is a person of interest, he has never been charged in the disappearance of Latrice Armstead. Latrice went missing 11 years ago from Memphis, Tennessee in 2012. Her sons are now 23, 17, and 14, and still in the care of her sister Brenda. If anyone has any information on what has happened to Latrice Armstead, please come forward and help to solve this case. Her sons and family deserve to know what has happened to her. Her sister Brenda has been her sister's keeper for 11 years, working hard to keep this case alive and raising her children. And she says that she will not rest until this case is solved.